The recording on making a plan to die, having an end of life plan. In Canada, while not currently allowing MAID for mental illnesses as the sole underlying condition, Canada plans to implement this by March 17th, 2027. So, personally, I'm hopeful about um, getting assisted dying uh, in 2027 ASAP as soon as possible. Um, when we have lost everything, including hope, life becomes a disgrace and death becomes a duty. That's W.C. Fields. And Sage Shanakya, he says, "It is better to die than to preserve this life by incurring disgrace. The loss of life causes but a moment's grief, but disgrace brings grief every day of one's life." And here's Albert Einstein refusing surgery, saying, "I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it elegantly." That's Einstein refusing surgery to prolong his life. Sophocles writes, "Death is not the worst evil, but rather when we wish to die and we cannot." And Musonius Rufus writes, "Choose to die well while you can. Wait too long and it might become impossible to do so." And Anton Chekhov, he writes, "Death is terrible, but still more terrible is the feeling that you might live forever and never die." D.H. Lawrence writes, "Better to die than to live mechanically a life that is a repetition of repetitions." So I'm interested in getting assistance in dying. In some ways, it has already happened. I take medication at night before I go to sleep. I cannot fall asleep without medication, so I take Zopiclone and alpha lorazepam. That knocks me out. That's kind of assisted death already. I'm force injected with a antipsychotic, and that flattens my emotions and you know doesn't give me doesn't give me a very quality of life. I stopped taking Wellbutrin and antidepressant because it wasn't working. It was giving me headaches. Um, I feel like I've reached the end of my life. I'm only 44, but I don't feel like I have anything left on my bucket list in terms of what I want to do. I've done everything I want to do, and um, here are some thoughts on antipsychotics. It said, "Antipsychotics make you docile and unable to fight back. Once you are injected with an antipsychotic, there is no willpower, only a meek docility, a depression, a robotic procedure for securing laundry, cleaning products, food, and shelter. The individual is anesthetized, and his choices are no longer his own, but rather a subset of choices presented by his nearest and dearest. The people closest to you can limit the spectrum of choices down to two things, and by presenting increasingly narrow options, they can repetitively wear you down with those narrow choices. Do you want more? Do you want less? Which one do you want? Do you want? What do you want?" Most patients, I think, would say, "I want you to get out of my way and stop haggling me about which option you would like me to take." Um, I like having my own nail clippers. Like if I want to cut my nails, I don't like having to ask for a pair of nail clippers. And there's just one set that works. And if that set of nail clippers stops working, I just go and buy a new one. But there's just one choice. Um, what are chemical straitjacket drugs? Nursing home residents may be prescribed antipsychotic drugs as chemical straitjackets. Antipsychotics may calm patients down, but they also nearly double their chance of death from heart problems, infections, falls, and other ailments. The use of chemical restraints is a form of physical abuse at nursing homes. Practice was officially banned by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid in 1987. Nursing homes are legally required to document the use of all medications, including antipsychotic medications. Sadly, the nursing home industry has simply been tacking on dubious diagnosis of schizophrenia to justify their misuse of drugs. An investigation conducted by the New York Times found that the incidence of schizophrenia diagnosis in nursing home residents jumped by 70% since the use of chemical restraints became illegal in 2012. So, as chemical restraints became illegal, the schizophrenia diagnosis jumped up by 70%. Because when you diagnose someone with schizophrenia, then you can do what you want with them. You can force inject them, you can drug them. So why do chemical restraints happen? The simple answer is that it is quicker and easier to sedate a difficult resident than to serve them properly. Many of the residents of nursing homes need around the clock assistance with daily activities. They need help getting up, they need help sitting down, moving around, going to the bathroom, getting dressed, eating, drinking, and more. Does that sound like somebody that you want to be? Do you want to be that person who's needs around the clock assistance with daily activities, or would you rather get assisted dying? Personally, I would rather get an assisted death, a relatively peaceful series of injections that will put me to sleep so I never wake up, rather than living to be so old that I can't do anything for myself. Why would anybody want that? Um, it goes on. Some are so gravely ill that they have trouble communicating exactly what they need. Many have conditions that make them extremely agitated, difficult, and even violent. Aggressive and difficult behavior is essentially common for those who suffer from dementia and such as Alzheimer's. It's not an easy job for nursing home staff. And the next passage is on the wizards of mind control, how parasites manipulate the behavior of their hosts. What if some outside force could control your mind and make you act against your own interest? It's a terrifying prospect, one that captures our imagination and recurs frequently in our fiction. Parasites are organisms that live in or on other creatures, feeding on their hosts and taking their resources. They infect animals and pull their behavioral strings, manipulating them like marionettes. Such parasites are essentially neuroengineers, as one paper put it, capable of controlling the central nervous systems of the hosts they infect. Their tactics are astonishing. The wasp locates a specific region of its cockroach host brain and injects it with a neurochemical cocktail that seems crafted for a specific purpose. The wasp's precise injection doesn't paralyze the roach, but it does rob it of its will to escape. a distinction crucial to the parasite's success. If the roach were paralyzed, it would be too big for the wasp to drag. Because the roach is not paralyzed, the tiny wasp is able to drag it, and the victim moves along helplessly like a trained animal on a leash. In this way, the wasp takes the zombie roach to its den, lays an egg on its victim, and buries it alive. Throughout this entire macabre process, the roach shows no interest in escaping. By using neurosurgery to rob the roach of its will to escape, but refraining from physically paralyzing it, the wasp has crafted the exact solution it needs. The solution is so precise it's shocking. But maybe it shouldn't surprise us that parasites outperform our most cutting edge neuroscience when it comes to behavioral manipulation. After all, evolution has given them a millions of years long head start. And that's the wizards of mind control. Um, Personally, I've had more than a dozen antipsychotic injections. I have been getting monthly injections for about over a year, more than 12. Um, Seneca introduces an argument as to why one should not fear death. He argues that we should reflect that those who die suffer no evils, and that all those stories which make us dread what is to come after death are mere fables, and that death is utter freedom from all that. Seneca then argues that death is neither a good thing nor a bad thing. For that alone which is something for that alone which is something can be good or bad, but that which is nothing and reduces all things to nothing does not hand us over to either fortune, because good and bad require some material to work on. Seneca goes on to say that life has meaning at all only because we die. Life, it is thanks to death that I hold thee so dear. Think how great a blessing is a timely death. How many have been injured by living longer than they should. So death is a blessing, and think about the injury of living longer than you should. It's a tremendous injury, and the time drags on forever. Anybody who's been sick knows that the day just goes on and on and on. And the only thing that a sick person like myself looks forward to is going to sleep. Waking up is an utter nightmare. So the world is full of willing people, and there's some people are willing to work, the rest are willing to let them work. So what happens when people aren't willing to let you work? What happens when they don't want you in the work environment? What happens when you're ostracized? What happens um, when your gratitude test fails, where um, you know what gratitude is, but you don't necessarily feel it? Um, just looking for some more material to talk about. Seneca writes, life, if well lived, is long enough. And I certainly have felt that way. Life to me is not short. People who say that life is short, life is long. Life goes on and on and on and on. It drags on forever. And I certainly have had enough experience. Vonnegut writes, I am, of course, notoriously hooked on cigarettes. I keep hoping the things will kill me. The fire at one end, a fool at the other. And he writes, the public health authorities never mention the main reason many Americans have for smoking heavily, which is that smoking is a fairly honorable form of suicide. And K. Redfield Jameson talks about manic depression and how manic depression is a disease that both kills and gives life. Fire, by its nature, both creates and destroys. And she writes, grief comes and goes, but depression is unremitting. Isaac Asimov writes, life is pleasant, death is peaceful. It's the transition that's troublesome. So this is a recording of the transition where life has passed. I've experienced the pleasantness of life. I had a lot of happy moments and a lot of happy periods in childhood and even in young adulthood. I know death is peaceful, and I know that experiencing a transition. So I have been in transition for quite a number of years, and it's quite painful. And I envy people who die quickly, those who have abrupt deaths are the lucky ones. The really truly unlucky ones are the people who have to experience the slow passage of time in that agonizing sort of passage from morning to night. And then there's the people who have trouble sleeping. I consider myself fortunate that I can take medication that puts me to sleep because otherwise I would not be sleeping. Um, when I was when I was a smoker of cannabis, marijuana, I would sleep when I felt like it. So that meant that I could be up 2 days in a row, and then I would crash maybe sometimes in the afternoon. Um, that came to a stop. My peers, the people closest to me, wouldn't support that habit. Um, Seneca writes, death is the wish of some, the relief of many, and the end of all. So, just wondering what your thoughts are on MAID, dignity in dying, and assisted death, and what should we expect in March 2027? Are the people such as myself with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, are we going to go for an assisted death? And if I have it my way, I will be dead by 2028. By the time 2028 comes, I will no longer be alive. I will be injected into a coma and then given cardiac arrest. Um, I don't enjoy life anymore. Um, there's very little that I enjoy. It's a curse.